What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 12 of my reviewing and ranking the live Phish archival concert release series. Phish releasing a bunch of live shows in their entirety. This is volume 12. I'm going to talk about volume 12, and then I will show where I would rank that among the other 11 I've already talked about on this channel. It's cold here in Texas. Winter arrived before Halloween. Crazy. This is a complete show from August 13th, 1996, Deer Creek Music Center right outside Indianapolis. I just did a Deer Creek show from the Grateful Dead 90 show elsewhere on the channel. And these two shows, like the Dead and the Phish, are remarkably similar. There was something about Deer Creek. I saw a lot of Deer Creek shows over the years. On summer tours of various bands. And there always was just, despite the fact that it's just this amphitheater in the middle of this parking lot, like my memory of it is the amphitheater's here and the parking lot completely surrounds it. And you just kind of walked around it, and that's where all the vendors were. And a lot of walking, but sold a lot of sodas back in the days. That's how we used to make our money, grilled cheese and sodas. But for some reason, the vibe inside the venue was always just fantastic. And the bands brought just those shows. And this is one of those shows where just like everything is played so perfectly. Trey's energy is incredible. Mike's energy is incredible. Page's, John's, the set list is pretty great. It's just one of those really solid shows where maybe it doesn't fall in one of those like goat conversations, or it's probably not that many people's all-time favorite shows, but like there's literally nothing wrong with it, and it's like just fantastic from start to finish. So yeah, that's what we're getting, just really high quality 96 Phish. Set one takes place in the entirety of disc one, opens up with a very sweet Divided Sky. Really nice to hear that as an opener, kind of sets the tone for what kind of sort of magical, majestic, soaring night this is going to be. During the solo, it seems like there is this sort of like maybe push to kind of maybe test the boundaries of Divided Sky. And like Divided Sky is a pretty like, we know the path the solo is going to take, and it seems like there are these tendencies by like Trey and the band to maybe push the boundaries of that and see if we can wander off into more of a type 2 or some weird excursion that doesn't normally happen during the Divided Sky. And they never give in. Like it's a very elastic jam where you can feel like the sides are like they're trying to break them and they're trying to bend them, but they never do. But it gives it a very sort of not necessarily an off-the-rails vibe. I mean, it feels controlled the entire time, but it does give it a little more sense of like, ooh, is something really strange going to happen? Nothing strange really happens, but it is just, from start to finish, a fantastic Divided Sky. That's followed by an awesome song choice. We drop into a tube, just duh, 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 whatever those first lyrics are. And then we're off. We get a great jam in the middle, some great playing, awesome all around energy, just a perfect complement to the sort of soaring energy that was Divided Sky, kind of like set us up with this almost like majestic, like grand opening, and then we just get right into the meat and bones with a really nice funky tube. That's followed by Attila, a song that I'm always excited to hear on a set list, though I always expect maybe there's something a little more to it that I'm not getting. But it's a nice Tila. I enjoy Tila. Not the most common of first set tunes. Then we get a ferocious Maze. The jam on the Maze is just absolutely, again, just pushing the envelope, trying to like break free and go different places. Gets super nasty at times. Trey's really just kind of pushing those boundaries out there. Very dirty Trey guitar playing in this Maze. We get a really nice Fast Enough for You, probably one of my favorite of the Trey kind of slow ballad pieces. We get both of the riffed ones. Maze is on here, and so is Life Boy. Oh no, Life Boy's not on that. Those are different albums. But Really nice. They're both performed really well and kind of pop up at the sort of perfect spots when they do. So really nice, Fast Enough for You. Then we get the Old Home Place. Always a fan of these sort of like Uncle Pen country type things. We get a Rocky Top later on in the show. This is a little more chill, but really good song selection. We get a Punch You in the Eye. Fun to hear. Yet to be fully extended. It's close to being fully extended. Yet to be like it's pretty much got that vibe that it would have when it takes over like opening slots in the future. But still a nice Punch You in the Eye. That goes into a llama, full on Trey attack in the llama. He has like the siren jam at one point where he makes his guitar almost sound like it's a siren that's ringing out as he just kind of ups the intensity and just, your typical llama shred fest. We get a really nice glide. 2-3 years earlier, you're hearing glide every other show. Usually you get a lot of Runaway Jim foam glides to start off, llama foam glides. It's nice to hear a glide. It seems like it hadn't been played in a while. Maybe it was, but it just seems nice to hear here in 96 and here in this release order. I think we just got it like on 10, right? Really nice glide. The band seems to know it kind of is something special. The audience responds appropriately. And then we get the absolute cherry on top of their first set. We close out with a Slave to the Traffic Light. Just to close the first set, it's a fantastic song choice. The solo buildup is pretty much just 8 minutes of like slowly just scaffolding this like solo. Once we get into the solo section, like Trey almost immediately like steps back and is like, hey, I'm out of here. Mike kind of leads at first, almost like Phil would lead like some Eyes of the World jams, but on a much more softer, chiller vibe. But Mike is very prominent at first. At one point, when we're maybe in the second half of the song, as we're just building and building and building and building this energy, Fishman starts doing almost these like waves of like percussion that kind of come at the band and kind of like wash over what they're doing, but also propel them forward. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Gates of Delirium opening and how those kind of just kind of happen. We slowly kind of up the intensity, but John is the only one doing it on drums while the band just kind of continues their solo pace. And it's really a neat effect. There is sort of like, this is almost the opposite of Divided Sky. It seems like in Divided Sky, maybe it was Divided Sky, where the band is kind of straightforward and Trey's kind of pushing out. No, in this one, yeah, the band's lifting up and the Slave to the Traffic Light, you can hear the band like, we need to get to that peak. We need that like that slave rise. And Trey seems to be fighting against it and like keeping it like dissonant and down and not letting it rise as quickly as maybe the band wants to. So there's this neat sort of tension in there that everybody ultimately gives into when we get that climactic conclusion at the end of Slave. But yeah, it's just an absolutely fantastic first set. Great song choices, great performances, good energy. Trey, everybody sounds particularly good, but Trey seems particularly aggressive in almost every solo, and the band, of course, is responding perfectly. And everybody's got their little moment where they're really pushing jams forward, where you like appreciate each of the four members. A fantastic first set. Second set, we start off with an AC/DC bag. And once we get into the really nice AC/DC bag, once we get into the solo, things immediately just kind of like we drop down, like, okay, we're going to settle in for a long solo. You can tell almost immediately in solo territory that the band's going to take their time on this, and they're just going to let things build. And it's just this long, slow jam. There is this part towards the end where Trey seems to be like tightening the energy, like everything he's playing just seems to be like is trying to like bring the band together in like a really tight, focused way. And I always imagine that whatever this AC/DC bag is, this is Trey literally like tightening the like drawstring on it, so we can do whatever needs to be done at the end of an AC/DC bag. You're going to tighten the drawstring before you use it. Not sure what you use it for. But it seems like there's this just sort of like tightening of like the energy before we reach a point where like, okay, the drawstrings close and now we're just going to like shred like as we do in like the normal ending of an AC/DC bag before we have like the meltdown into a song that always just appears at the perfect time in the perfect place, Into the Lizards. Fantastic Lizards. Again, it's one of those songs, just seems like wherever it pops up, it's the perfect place. I remember I have this on cassette, and I remember it was one of those I just got in the mail. You would like I would send people Dead shows or Zappa shows, and they'd send me back Phish shows. And I remember getting this one, and side A is AC/DC Bag, Lizards, and then Mike's song. 3 songs. Because after we get the AC/DC Bag, which is like 10 minutes, the Lizard, which is like, what, 12, we get a 22, 23-minute Mike song. And this Mike song is one of those upper tier, must hear. If you're a Mike song fan, or if you're a fan of live music, if you're a fan of jam bands, you got to check out this Mike song. You get your, first off, another perfect choice after the AC/DC Bag Lizards. As soon as Trey starts that bum 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 bum, it's just like, yeah, we're in it. It feels like it's going to be epic. You can just tell they're like serving up something delicious at this point. It just, the first jam goes way out there. We get maybe about 5 or 6 minutes of really good jamming. We're getting those Escher-esque mazes where they're just kind of chasing each other and spiraling around each other, like following their own tails and chasing their own ideas. Really, really good. Like that first jam is really just like almost good enough to be like a quality Mike song in its own. You get this spiraling Escher-esque jam. You get all this tension built up that you then get released, and then you get more tension and you get the release. It's just really this give and take, back and forth, super intense, super like psych head swirling type jam. About the 9-minute mark, we go into the dun, dun, we go into that sort of middle refrain. And then as soon as we go into that sort of ending closing section, which is going to go on for like 12 minutes, it just gets nasty and dissonant, and like Trey's immediately like just like playing weird chords, and the band seems like sloppy, but purposely sloppy. Like we're just going to be all over the place and kind of let these like spill over all these like dominoes and just kind of see where they fall, and then maybe pick them up and try to assemble something. But it just has this like very just purposely like, let's try something like pick up sticks type. Let's drop the sticks and see where they fall, and then pick up the pieces. And eventually everybody but Trey settle on this rhythm, this really cool, super funky, super tight, just pattern that to me, when I visualize it, it just seems like these 3 interlocking pieces just like continuing, like shifting around each other, but like never separating, like staying really tight and cohesive. And this rhythm just kind of keeps repeating under Trey, and Trey is just shredding on top of it, like completely ignoring whatever is happening. And that sort of, and it almost feels like they're moving around each other, and like this like threesome cube of thing that John and Paige and Mike are creating is trying to like chase Trey and subdue him, but Trey's just like, no, I gotta fight this. I'm just thrashing away like crazy. It is just so much fun. It is so cool, super funky, super aggressive. Complement each other so well. It eventually simmers down, and we get some sort of like really cool, low key, almost jazzy sort of keyboard led jam with this really, Paige's keyboard sound is really kind of quaint and just kind of like, almost sounds like a cheap little jam band would have this when they're just starting out and you're watching them in their garage. It has this really neat sound to it that works well. And maybe it's because I just reviewed the Emerson, Lake and Palmer albums, but this kind of ending jam reminds me of the ending jam on Trilogy, which is on the album Trilogy. Kind of islandy, kind of loose, kind of proggy. It eventually gets a little bit weirder, as Phish would do and not as Emerson, Lake and Palmer normally would do. But it's got a really good feel, and it just kind of goes for like 3 or 4 minutes and lets us just kind of settle into this groove. Just absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Then we get the Life Boy I was talking about earlier, and it's really sweet. And those first notes, that do 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 coming out of Mike's is kind of perfect. It almost seems for a second like somebody's gonna play. We're gonna go into an I Am Hydrogen, but then we get the Life Boy, which I know back in the day when I first got this tape, I was like, oh man, and Hydrogen would have been perfect at this point. But I like the Life Boy. I appreciate the Life Boy. It's a sweet Life Boy. That goes in a Weekapaw groove. A pretty straightforward kind of like doesn't really go anywhere, Weekapaw. And it almost seems like they know that what's going to come next is the acoustic set. That when they had that little mini acoustic stage, when they would usually do a handful of songs in 96. And it almost feels like they know it's coming, and so they don't really want to go too far out there in the jam, because then they have to bring it back and they don't have that much time. So instead of like committing to something too intense, let's just kind of play it safe. And so the Weekapaw, while it's enjoyable, it just kind of seems to be like there, like riding like an exercise bike. You're getting exercise, you're just not really going anywhere. Right? You feel good afterwards. I mean, you're sweating, you feel good. You were on that thing for like 8 minutes, right? But so anyways, that's what I feel the Weekapaw is. Then we go into a little acoustic break where they play their acoustic instruments. They're mic'd properly so we can hear them. And it's a pretty good run of songs. First page does Somewhere Over the Rainbow on the theremin. Then we get a version of Waste, which is a really good song. Sounds really good. We get Train Song. We get Strange Design, just an underrated gem, or maybe it isn't underrated. I think everybody loves Strange Design. I was listening to this the other day, and just like the vocals about like, can I bring a few companions on this ride, or whatever it is. Just such a powerful lyric, and this really resonated with me. Back in the day, it would resonate with me because I'd be on the road with a few companions on this ride, literally. Now it definitely has more of a metaphorical, and it works. It was a beautiful song. Then we get a Sweet Adeline a cappella, and then we go into a David Bowie, and it's about 16, 17 minutes long, so it's a pretty meaty David Bowie, but we're pretty... kind of reminds me of Weekapaw. We're pretty much kind of riding an exercise bike for a lot of this. We're getting things done. We're exercising. We're building up a sweat. It feels good, but it doesn't feel like we're really going anywhere. Mike is really active early in the jam. You get some really nice mic action. And it really feels like the entire thing is an exercise in slowly building up the energy towards the sort of David Bowie fake out endings, where they and then into weirdness before we get that whole sort of the mandatory section, which is always fun, not complaining about it. But it feels like the entire thing is just an exercise in building up the energy levels. And at every step in the energy level build, we're kind of exploring ideas, but not really following them. And then the energy gets up and we explore ideas. And then the energy gets up and we explore ideas. And then right towards the very end, we really start to get those like super intense sort of moments. About the 12-minute mark, it looks like we're going to finally take flight after some tension build up, but then we kind of bring it back down, and then we jump into that sort of ending, routine that David Bowie has. So it's a good, solid closing to the show, but I think after the absolute monstrosity that was Mike's song, it's maybe a little bit of a disappointment. But again, I'm just nitpicking at this point. And then we get a Sleeping Monkey Rocky Top for an encore. Sleeping Monkey, what a strange little song. And then Rocky Top, which is always fun to hear. And then we get 2 songs as filler. We get the opening songs from the show the day before. I'm pretty sure this was opening for the first set. We get a Yamar, which is really nice. Fun ending. It seems like when Trey's soloing, he's going to end his solo and he comes back in, and Fishman doesn't really the band doesn't go back into the song, so Trey pretends to end it again, and the band pretends to end it again. So it seems like there's like this fake fun ending at the end of Yamar. Has a really good loose feel to it. Gets kind of almost weird out there for a couple seconds before they kind of wrap it up. And then we get a Split Open and Melt, which is a pretty standard, typical Split Open and Melt. We're pretty much going straight forward in the straight open melt lane. We get some really monster ideas from Mike as the song's about to peak. There is this 20, 25-second run where Mike's just holding these long, deep notes, and the intensity is just amazing. And that kind of pushes things to the next level for the final minute and a half. But yeah, fantastic release. Again, highlight without a doubt is Mike's song. The Mike song on here I think is a must hear. It's just an absolute monster. Some solid playing. The first half of the second set from AC/DC all the way. I would even give Weekapaw just because it's a nice sort of meltdown. That set 2 is pretty fantastic. It's probably the best part. And there's nothing wrong with the set 1. But anyways, yeah, those are my thoughts on this. Where would I rank this among the other live Phish? Right now I have it at number 5. Yeah, that Mike song is really, really good. And that first set is really, really good. And so I'm putting it up there. I think it's better than everything else on that list that's below it. Yeah, number 5. I really, really like this. Um, I reserve the right to change it, but I'm not going to right now because that's where I'm going to put it. So anyways, yeah, my number 5. Yeah, all right. Nothing's going to touch those top 2, though. Those top 2 are pretty fantastic. I'm hoping something does touch those top 2 because that's going to be a fantastic listen, but we'll see. We'll see if that happens. But that's all I got. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you check this album out. Please go check out some Phish, man. Go listen to this Mike song. If you have not checked out Phish, go listen to the Mike song from this. That should change your mind about what this band could do. It's a fantastic Mike song. On the virtue of that Mike song alone, it gets to number 5. That's how much I like that Mike song. All right, that's all I got. Peace. Talk to you later.